listeners of the T.R.O.N podcast. This is your host, Rashad Woods. Today, I have a very special guest today, a man that helps people get to reach their highest potential. Entrepreneur, tech speaker, all-around solid good guy, Eli Bowman, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Rashad, man. I'm glad I'm here.
I'm excited, man. You know, you really have a very inspiring story that comes from a pure place because you help inspire people and get people who are stuck, who are trying to get to that next level and don't have a way out of it. So can you tell your story of how you got into that field of work?
Yeah, it was more so me being in my own sort of crisis moment where, I had a company and we were scaling with one big customer, and we had a meeting with them and they were like, yeah, let's scale together. And then the following week, they just pulled the rug right from underneath us, went with a competitor.
Oh my.
And I had kind of built my business around that kind of volume.
Yeah.
And so I was looking at it now, what was now an uploaded company, mm-hmm. and no revenue to match the spend on the size of the company, over 40 employees. And I was just looking at everything. I thought, what in the world am I going to do here? So I was in a crisis moment. And of all people, my tax strategist, who I thought was just a numbers person, she said, hey, look, I can tell you're not okay. So there's this event going on in Dallas, and why don't you go there? It's an NLP event. I said, what's NLP? She said, it's neuro-linguistic programming. I
was going to ask you about
I had heard of it with I heard about it with sales talks and marketing and things like that, and like communication. I heard good things about it.
Yeah.
I said, I need something. So I said, how long is it? She said, a week.
Yeah.
I said, a week? That's a long event. Yeah. But I was like, I need it. So I go down there, and I'm sitting in the room in the first day, Rashad. And as I'm there, I'm like listening, I'm talking to people. Everyone around me is like a coach, a mentor, a consultant, a therapist, or something.
Right.
They're working with people, and like they're all in these fields where they already have these established clienteles. And I'm like, I'm just a business owner. Like, I feel a little out of place. And I came to learn a little bit after that it was a certification event for those type of people to kind of further their career, to add more expertise to what they do.
Right.
And I thought I had to make a decision. I was like, do I stay or do I go? And I was like, man, I need something. So I stayed, and I'm so glad I did. And this is how I'm going to answer your question here. That's how I got into that body of work, the neuro-linguistic programming body of work. And it answered so many questions I had about myself. It explained so many things about my life that I had never really considered before, but had all these missing pieces, and they all just fit.
Yeah.
NLP answered so much for me. And so I was like, I got to use this. I got to use this moving forward to help other people. And that's kind of how I started in that, down that road.
Yeah, I think sometimes people can, for lack of a better term, I've said this on other podcasts, people can autopilot it, right? Because, you have a structured environment for a long time, whether you go to elementary, whether you go to college, and then, you transition to post-college. And now all of a sudden, you've always kind of just followed a schedule or followed a regiment. And now you mentally can kind of coast and kind of cap your potential because either A, life, family, kids, et cetera, takes over, or B, you fall into habits or not reaching your potential because you're tired, you're fatigued, and life just sort of happened. And even though you're a successful business owner, I've heard this from other successful business people, it still happens to them, right? They're always chasing the next sale, but they never focused on them and their personal growth.
That is so true. In fact, I write about this. I call it the conveyor belt. I'm not the first to call it that, but because that imagery has been used, but it really is, Rashad. Like there's like this very clear. There's almost this implied promise.
Yeah.
That if you do X, Y, Z, if you go to school, graduate, get married, get a good job, get the mortgage, get the car, have the kids. Like there's this implied promise that joy and happiness will come from. That's the measure of fulfillment of life.
And it's sold on TV and shows and commercials.
100%.
Right?
It is absolutely, and that further deepens the programming that we have. That it's the way, that it's the path, but it's not. Because it's not something that it's manufactured from outside of us, Rashad. It's not something that comes from within.
Right.
And that's why for so many people, it doesn't feel happy.
Right.
It might feel good enough.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that people are miserable necessarily. Some people are, though.
Yeah.
Some people are. They live, as the old author says, lives of quiet desperation. Quiet desperation.
Well, that really hit hard, man, you know. That really.
I know it hits hard when you think about it. And then, like when you hear that, how easy is it to look back on your life, and for me to look back on my life and go, "Oh yeah, there are lots of stretches where I was quietly desperate, didn't say a word, and just kept trucking along because like I was on that conveyor belt of what I thought I should be doing."
Right.
Of course, I was confused. Like, where the heck's my joy? I've done all these things.
Usually it's a lot
Where's
more.
Where's my happiness, darn it?
There's just a lot more expletive given than that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know what I mean? You know, but like it's always like that Jerry Maguire feeling, like, where's your Quan at, right? Because, you know, there's a reason why, you know, I've said this to other guests. I have a black belt in Tong Soo Do Karate, Korean Karate. I have a brown belt in Taekwondo, and I've done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai. And even if you're not a professional fighter, even if you're not going to reach that upper echelon, you're still chasing something, right? Because you got guys that do martial arts and they're like, hey, man, I got this successful job. I got the kids. Why are you here? Because they're like, dude, there's something I have to pursue. There's a next level to something that I haven't accomplished yet. And to your point, once you sit around long enough and you scroll through all those streaming apps, man, that's a doom cycle. It's a doom. Oh, dude, it's the worst. You're like, are you serious? Like, and then you just sit there for an hour and a half and won't even know where that hour and a half went.
For real. Oh gosh, it's true. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So you go to this course, right? And you're out of place, right? And it has to be kind of awkward because you have all these, like you said, these therapists, these doctors, these attorneys, all these people, and you're like, how did you like break that barrier to where like, okay, I deserve to be here and I can do this?
Well, I'd already paid for it and booked the hotel and the airfare. No, you know, in all seriousness, though, it really was bred from a place of desperation and or necessity. Yeah. Necessity is the mother of all invention, right? I mean, I think Benjamin Franklin's credited with that. I was just in a place where I needed to figure myself out. It's like, well, if this business is going to, when this happened, and I didn't say this, but I don't normally share this, but I'll share this here. When that rug was pulled out from underneath me, you would think that I would feel crushed, that I would feel just super sad, super depressed. I felt nothing. I felt numb, just numb. Yeah. And I wondered why that was. That was part of the reason I kind of went into a crisis moment, right? Because instead of feeling destroyed, like who I was as like instead of my identity being completely dismantled, I just felt nothing. And in fact, there were echoes, Rashad, of relief. Yeah. Echoes of relief. Yeah. And so that caused me to question. I'm like, well, if I feel these echoes of relief amidst the sea of numbness, what does that mean? Right. And so that's why I stayed. And, you know, that was the first certification, first level. I took my education in that body of work. I've taken it as far as I can go. I have a master designation now and truly am an expert now in NLP. And because I just love the body of work so much. And it's been so fun helping clients and helping groups. It's been incredible.
What's the typical, I don't want to say typical, it's disrespectful. What stage do most clients you talk to, are they at that quote unquote midlife crisis? Is it that successful business owner that's looking to expand? Is it that couple that's, on the rocks, so to speak? Or is it a person that looks back and reflects and said, I should have did this more?
Usually by the time they come to me, they are aware of their unfulfillment. And so a lot of times when they think of me, they sort of think of purpose and fulfillment and like trying to get their life to a place where they love it. Yeah. And that's what I specialize in. So when I'm starting with them, they have an increased self-awareness. Mm-hmm. They've realized that, okay, my life isn't exactly what I want it to be. Right. It's not what I want it to be. I don't really know how to make that shift into like living a life that I actually really enjoy because I don't know where to begin because I'm doing all the things I was told to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And
that's where they are when they come to me.
Well, it's funny when you say that you get things, you do what you're supposed to do. Back in the day when people did stuff that was odd or out of the pocket, so to speak, I just think of like high school, right? Everybody was geared towards the high school counselor, and they have like with your selection of colleges, right? And then next, you already are. You don't even know you're programmed when it's happening. You don't even. It's not even.
That's right.
You have no clue, right? And it's like there's something to be said of someone who catches it at 15 or 16 that's like either in their kitchen or working on the cars on the weekend, and they just got it. They just like, and it's so implicitly in their DNA, that they're not on that. I'm not dissing college, but you get where I'm going here. They're all going to the same class.
Yeah, I do.
You have to write the prep. I gotta make sure I stay up to 3:00 in the morning to get this paper done and do this group project. And then once I get my degree, everything else works itself out. And I think there's something to be said, and I don't want to talk too much from you, that's all blown up in a lot of people's faces, right? And 5 years after that, mid-20s, early 30s, they're like, wait a minute, man, the joke's on me, so to speak. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes,
two things about that. What you said is really profound because first I want to touch on how we don't even know. You have mentioned like the programming gets installed. We don't even realize it.
Nope.
You're absolutely right. And then I want to talk about what happens at that like late 20s, early 30s stage and what people can do. So when we're 0 to 7 years old, our brains really operate in a like a theta wavelength, which by the way is the same like sort of brain wavelength that hypnotists will put adults in when they're hypnotizing them.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
So how suggestible are we from 0 to 7? The answer is tremendously.
Correct.
We're sponges. When we hear it, it is a very high likelihood it gets installed into us. And so from 0 to 7 and 0 to 8, it's debatable, but that area that's where the vast majority, the bulk of our deep-seated programming is made.
Right.
The way we see the world, the way we see kind of life, the way we see our relationships, so much of it is informed during those years. And then so we live our life according to that programming. And then you're right, late 20s into the 30s, people start to gain an increased awareness of what I call the internal dissonance, which is what they're doing every day isn't matching the life that they actually want to live. So there's a delta there.
Right.
But here's what a lot of my clients were people who did the following. They hit that point where the realization was made, and then they just persisted in that dissonance for a number of years. And by doing so, because you're on a trajectory period. And so no matter what, you're on a trajectory.
Absolutely.
Because their trajectory was going further from the life they actually wanted, the stress, intention, and pain created by the delta between those two things
increased.
is what makes the pain higher than staying the same. So when the pain of changing is higher than the pain of staying the same, you will change, period. Because we stop pain. As a martial artist, you know what I'm talking about. We stop pain. When we hurt, we guard against it.
Absolutely. 150%.
Yeah. 150%.
Yeah.
And so like it's sad to see people persist so long in a life that isn't of their design simply because they think they have to, and even sadder because they don't know how to do anything different. And that's where I come in.
A lot of times it happens too, because depending on where you grew up or where you live from, and this is that there may only be one structured environment that they've only seen, right? There may only, and it's not, and I don't want to say that in a bad way, right? But if you sit back and say, hey,
well, it's just all they know.
That's all you know, right? And, like you take the same vacation, within 4 or 5 hours, and life is quote unquote good, right? And then, like you said, people start to, it's almost like the Matrix, right? Where like, the guy's walking like, wait a minute. There's other things out there. There's other experiences out there. I said to one of my kids, I have 3 daughters, right? And I told him, I said, listen, obviously I want you to be successful when you become when you get older. But I said, truly, if you don't know what to do when you graduate from high school and you're on the fence about college, I said, get on a plane, a car, or a train and hit water, and then figure it out in between when you hit a coast. And you know what I'm saying? Like,
I love
it
that.
Sounds cool. It sounds like a Mice and Men type novel, right? But it's like, listen, before you settle down and say, I have to be on this college campus. And if you want to, that's on you. But if you're like, man, I kind of need to figure it out. I don't care if you go east, west, or south to figure it out. And then you know what I mean? Because that could be your moment to capture that.
So true. And there's something about that travel. There's something about seeing the world. There's something about expanding your own personal horizon, like going past that. There's something about that totally changes the way you think. I'm 100% with you.
Why not? What's the worst that happens? Because it's interesting. And I don't, like I said, this is so fascinating because I see it, it's so relatable. Here you are at 17, 18 years old. You graduate from high school, right? And then 3 months later, you're on a college campus. And that is, you may not mentally be ready to just be able to do that. Like, you're in your parents' basement. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then next, I'm at this college and I'm supposed to do this every single day. Like, dude, man, really? Like, I spent 14 years of my life in school. And now you're telling me I got to go to school again to be valuable in life, in society.
Right.
That's how my values.
And go into tremendous amounts of debt in order to do it. If I'm not one of the lucky ones that has a totally full ride.
Right. And I and I don't run a 4.4. I can't dunk a basketball, and I can't, and God bless the people that can, right? So
sure.
You start becoming that number, right? And being that number, and I'm sure you've heard people that say that. I realize that I'm just a number, And so how have you turned that to positives for people once they reach that inflection point, so to speak?
Well, I think it starts with like me being able to even speak to that myself. I feel like a good friend of mine, Rory Vaden, he says this. He says, "You are best positioned to help the person you once were."
Oh, snaps.
And I think about who I once was, and I went to college. I graduated from the business school at the Ohio State University. Worked in corporate finance, and was straight conveyor belted, to the max. And then when I was in corporate America, I would work long hours. I would come home and just in time for dinner, catch a little bit of time with my kids, go back to work because they did not let us have laptops back then, and go back to the office until about 12, come back, sleep, wake up, do it all over again. And so when someone comes to me and they're like, hey, I'm starting to realize that I'm sort of stuck in this, what Kiyosaki calls the rat race.
You're like,
I'm like, look, I've been there. I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to just, you don't even know when it ends. You just think, oh, there's a career ladder where I work. And that's just, you're just oriented to how do I increase my ranking in the company? And therefore, how do I increase my income within this ecosystem of this corporation? And man, it's just, talk about needing to go to the coast. that narrow-mindedness, that tunnel vision is going to, it's not going to, I would say most of the time, almost all the time, it's not going to result in a life of total fulfillment, because it's just not a life of your design. You're playing by the rules of someone else's game. You can only do that so long, Rashad, until there's that inner dissonance and that delta, that pain of the life you really, really, truly want to live, and the life you're actually living, that's going to start rearing its head pretty quick.
Well, I think also what happens too is I've had the fortunate distinction of talking to a lot of, a wide variety of people. So, I've talked to people who are professional musicians, right? And one thing that, and I say this, imagine back in, maybe it's better now, I don't know enough to speak on it, but tell your parents, hey, I want to play music for a living, right? And you're not, they automatically have in their head the starving artist that's, on the corner,
of course,
or in the subway station, or you're going to write poetry and make money off. How are you going to live off that? Just do this instead. So it comes from, I guess, a place of nurturing, but it's also come from a place of a little bit of a safety net sort of thing, where just go where it's safe. don't go past this certain level in the pool because you might, they tell you can drown in a feet of water, right? So like, yeah, it comes from a place of purity, of helpfulness, but it also comes from a place of hindrance because I want to see what you didn't do, what wasn't shown to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gosh, this reminds Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't think anyone preaches this louder from the rooftops than Gary V. He talks about the impact your parents have on you. Now, Gary V is not trained in NLP, but he's on to something. Yeah. He's right, because we so often are crippled by the expectations of our parents. But here's the rub, man. Yeah. Here's where it gets tricky. As parents, and you're a father, yes?
Absolutely.
Like there's a base instinct to protect. And so we naturally, without even thinking about it, Rashad, we do everything we can to mitigate risk exposure for kids.
150%.
Yeah, and it takes a concerted effort, even when they're young, to let them climb the thing that they could fall down from. It takes work for us to go, okay, just let them go. Yeah. Just let them climb. Because they have to fall down. Yeah. They got to skin their knee. Yeah. They got to do it. Right. It's to learn. They just won't learn otherwise.
It's so funny you mentioned that because, I remember when one of my I have 3 daughters, and my middle daughter wanted to climb a certain high ride at an amusement park. And she's like, 5. And I'm like, no. And she had a complete, like, I can do this. And then next thing you know, you see her do it. And I'm like, I did that without even, it didn't even dawn on me. Like, what if that moment hindered you with everything else you do in life because psychologically you were told that you weren't supposed to do something that could put you in harm's way? I'm not talking about jumping off buildings and doing back. We're not talking about that.
Sure.
We're talking about basic, like, hey, let me see if I can climb that hill. And if I, get a couple bumps and bruises along the way, so what? Right.
And yes. And what behavior how do you think that exhibits as adults? It exhibits this way: risk aversion.
Yes.
Why would I start that business? It's scary. It could hurt. I could fall down. All of these metaphors, right?
Absolutely.
Like mom and dad, warned me against risk, and that feels unsafe. So therefore, because it's unsafe, because I don't know I can't tell the outcome, I'm going to not act.
Exactly.
And man, that doesn't serve us.
No.
Because that also translates into, I'm not going to apply for that other job that probably will pay better or be better. I'm not going to, make this change in my life. I'm not going to leave this relationship, even though it's toxic and it harms me, because I don't know what's out there.
Because it's safe to a degree of
right. The devil, we prefer the devil we know over the devil we don't.
Absolutely.
And that's what we learned that as kids. And that's the rub. And let me close that loop, because with parents, we have this base instinct to protect. Mm-hmm. And so even though that comes from a place of love and nurturing and is biologically necessary and hardwired into us, there is 100% an impact in our children's lives from the way we parent, simply because of the inclination we have to keep them safe. Yep. Ain't that just a son of a gun? Because there's no way around that. It's a balancing act,
right? It's about.
So part of increasing our self-awareness, Rashad, is recognizing that no matter who we are, we're going to have to. Some kids have to touch the stove to know it's hot.
Exactly.
Some kids can see another kid touch the stove and see it's hot, and they'll learn. Mm-hmm. I'm someone that has to touch the stove.
Gotta find
and sometimes I have to touch it twice just to make sure it's hot. And I get burned both times. So people are like that, and at some point we're going to have to figure out, is that stove really hot?
And the guy who's taking martial arts, like, man, what if I get hurt? Well, that's the point. Mm-hmm. That's the point. Like, listen, man, if you want to find out real quick, what you are and what you aren't, and nobody's, for all intents and purposes, when you do martial arts, unless somebody's going to the pros, people meter themselves when it comes to training. Yeah, there's that 1 or 2 guys in there, but most people are respectful. But for all intents and purposes, whether it's boxing, wrestling, karate, jiu-jitsu, I'm telling you right now, like, you're gonna get choked out, you're gonna get put to sleep, you're gonna get blasted. I don't care who you are, it's going to happen. So the idea that I don't want to get in there because I don't want to get hit, it's a metaphor for life. Step in there so that you can find out what you can take, and more importantly, you can find out how to protect yourself from getting hit that hard. Because the difference between getting hit flush and turning your head about 2 inches off to the side is a monumental difference. It's the difference we get put to sleep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It really is. This is fun, man, because it shows that what you learned at that stage elevated you to a place of purity and be able to say, if I can do this, you sure as heck can.
There is beauty in earning your stripes and taking your licks. That's how we get refined. That's how we gain wisdom. Do you know any, I would say, any black belts in any martial arts that have not earned their stripes 100%. And taken their licks and gotten jacked up, gotten put to sleep, Like, do you know any that have ever made it all the way and become expert? Yeah, none. It doesn't exist. It's no different with any other area of life or any other pursuit.
And would you
if you want to be happy, you got to take your licks.
And would you train from somebody who didn't? Would you honestly?
Right.
Oh, come on, dude. Like, if I have taken a multitude of martial arts. If there was nobody who never suffered any injury, any butt whooping, and was like, they are the third or second or first degree, whatever belt they were, I'd be like, I gotta go, man.
Different dojo for me. I'm out.
Not happening, brother. Like, come on, dude. You never got your butt handed to you. Not once.
I hope people realize that it's the same with their mentors and their coaches, because it's flooded. The truth, and I hate saying this because this is like, these are my people, but it is flooded. Oh, for sure. That industry, coaching, mentoring, it's flooded with people who haven't been to the place where they're trying to take you. Right. Okay. People come to me for business because they know that I built a business. I bootstrapped a company, built it to a multi-million-dollar valuation with over 40 employees. Beautiful. The fruit's on the tree for me. Right. In my expertise in NLP. Guess what? I've been through crisis. I've been through my rock bottom. So, some people just get to rock bottom and then like they try to work their way up. I hit it so hard. I bounced up. I hit it again.
I'm in the laugh part the way you just did that. Absolutely cracked me up. Because I just pictured some sort of cartoon character, like, right, just flopping back up.
That's what it felt like, I swear, at the time, dude. Oh, that's what it felt like. But yeah, all that to say, like, pick your coaches and mentors carefully because you want to make sure they either are where you want to be or have been and are now past where you're trying to get to.
Right. And I think that says a lot too, because ultimately we are, kind of programmed to see the splashy images on YouTube. And this isn't a knock to you or your profession, but people make very good videos and very good social media feeds, right? And it's very easy to get captured by the image on screen and sort of not look at the substance of it and then pay for the course. And then that person just makes money off fees of courses as opposed to actually doing something tangible for you. Yeah. And it's like that in like that with any industry. It's irrelevant to, I don't say irrelevant to coaching, but it's not just to coaching,
Right. You're absolutely right. It's relevant to every industry.
For sure it is. So let's talk about your public speaking. How do you, who asked you to speak and what events, and is it corporations, businesses, individuals, local business chapters, chambers of commerce?
Kind of a little bit of everything. We have a women's conference in Chicago coming up in November, and I thought they want a male speaker, and they do. They have a few other male speakers over the 2-day period as well. So that's a business conference. That's for female entrepreneurs. There's a tour called the Aspire Tour. It's the largest business tour in the country. Wonderful. And maybe the world. And, they go to like big markets, but they've been going to smaller markets, in Columbus, Ohio, where I live, they're coming and they asked me to be on stage and address. There's a couple thousand people there that are ready to take the next step with their life in entrepreneurship and in business. I have spoken to small groups, churches. I've spoken to, I've been to schools and spoken to students. My message is one that really could be tailored to anyone. And that's what I love about what I do, because when it comes to the mind, we all have one, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a 12-year-old middle school kid, like you've got a mind and your mind works like everyone else's mind works. Maybe not identically, but pretty darn close. And so I speak to lots of different people and I'm open to that. And I love that because I'm not pigeonholed into only speaking to entrepreneurs. That's who I speak to the most because that's what I've been. Right. But really I love catering my message to new audiences that like this women's conference. I'm so stoked. I cannot wait to get up there and talk to them.
You'll have to share the clips with me too, because I'm really looking forward to seeing,
Absolutely, would love to.
And I love all of your clips. I went to your Instagram feed. It was all positivity. It's all great vibes and energy. And I would, jump in the pool because, we all laugh when, if you're a boxing or mixed martial artist fan, it's easy to make a meme with somebody who got knocked out or choked out because that's the thing we do. But the person that's in the ring will say, I stepped into a place that you would never have done. I was willing to get knocked out to prove my value and my worth. And that's fine that you laughed at it, but you would never have the stones to come in there. And there's a small percentage of people that will do that. And then the crazy part about it is 6 months later, they'll get knocked out again. And it's just like, and then after a while, you'll see them after the fight and they're just like, yep, hey man, that's the way. And you're like, dude, you just got, you got memed for the rest of history. And they don't care because that's just what they signed up for. Right. It doesn't bother them.
I mean, imagine someone on fire. Right, exactly. Imagine someone on fire to get a black belt.
Yeah.
And they go to their friend. Say it's a young kid at school, high school. Yeah. They say, I'm going to go get a black belt in Tang Soo Do, and I got that fire in me. Half their friends, maybe even more, are going to go, dude, come on, stop,
100%.
Stop. You're not gonna do that. Yeah. It's too hard. Yeah. You're going to quit. Like, just don't even start. Yeah. If that same kid with the fire in his belly comes to you, Rashad, a black belt, comes to you, and he says, Rashad, I want to be a black belt just like you. I've got a fire for this. And you see that fire in his eyes. What are you going to tell him? Are you going to tell him that he shouldn't, or are you going to tell him that he can?
The first thing I'm going to do is that absolutely can. It doesn't matter what age, but if you want to, here's how you're going to do it. Right. And,
see, that's beautiful.
Yep.
Because you've taken that road. That's why you'll lift him up. Yeah. And people who have had success, people who have won, like high achievers, they will be the first to tell someone, you can do it. Right. It's like a kid wants to dreams of being an NFL quarterback. His friends will say, you can't be an NFL quarterback. If he goes to Tom Brady and says, I want to be an NFL quarterback, Tom Brady's going to say, heck yeah, you can do it. Here's what it takes.
Exactly. And I remember that speech he gave when he was like, it is not easy getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning on Saturdays when your friends are eating waffles and pancakes. And I remember he was like, you think it was fun? Like, there's this myth that people, I'm the greatest quarterback of all time. Or Michael, do you think Michael Jordan? Yeah. Like, you think it didn't suck? Like, yeah, it sucked. Heck yeah, it sucked. He was like, but, everybody's asleep. People are watching cartoons. But the flip side to it is seeing the success on the other end. People don't, everybody loves the birthday cake. Everybody loves a great meal. But nobody's there when the cooking takes place because the cooking sucks, right? Like, the cooking is really muddled.
Or the cleanup, you're
raw
right.
meat and trash cans and loading up the car. But they love when the dinner's done. Right. So
that's right.
We're very programmed for the end result, but not the crappy stuff in between it, man. Really,
That's right.
It's what
you said it well.
It's just true. So, where can people find you? And ultimately, that's really what I like to ask the guests. You obviously have done good for yourself, but for the purpose of the show, where can people find
you? Thank you. Yeah. So Instagram, Eli.Bowman. If you go to Facebook, it's just Eli Bowman. You can search my name. You'll see it. There's a verified on both. Twitter, Eli Bowman. And, it's just, I'm out there. Yeah. Just my socials are where I'm most active. Yeah. You can go to elibowman.com and you can get in touch with me there. But yeah, I'm around. Would love to connect with anybody.
Yeah. There's a great sign inside the place I do jiu-jitsu. It says, embrace the suck. Right. It's just like,
yes.
Yeah. That's exactly what time is. Yes. It really is, man. And I would encourage everybody, look at, even like a podcast, right? Like, I was terrified of doing it. I'm a guy who knew a lot of random things. And my biggest fear was, am I good enough to get guests? And then if I get guests, am I good enough to hold a good conversation? And I got to be honest with you, I'm not going to say I'm great at it, but I've kind of at least done halfway decent enough to keep getting people coming on there. So.
Dude, this was a great conversation. I'm so glad I came on. Man, this was awesome.
I love connecting with guys like you, man, or people like you as well, too, because I think that human potential and it's almost like the movie Gattaca, right? Like, look at Ethan. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, right? Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
Right? The guy, for people who haven't seen it, it's a great movie where people were genetically engineered.
It's so good.
People were genetically engineered. He wasn't, and he still had to get where he needed to get, right? And it's such a it's a movie about life, right? It really is. It's so poignant. So
100%. I love that movie. That's a great map across.
It's a fantastic film. So I appreciate you, brother, and like I said, all the best wishes to your continued success.
Thanks, Rashad. Appreciate it, man.
Anytime. That was a blast.